All right. Today we have a special guest on this little conversation. Her name is Shannon Mick. She is a national certified counselor and licensed professional counselor in Pennsylvania. She specializes in treating anxiety via telemental health. And on the side of being a professional counselor, Shannon is an endurance athlete mindset coach working with individuals and groups all over the US. So you're also an ultramarathon running, and that's your passion, and you enjoy teaching people how they can strengthen their mind. So thank you so much for being here with me, Shannon. How are you today? And yeah, how are you today?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me. I'm pretty excited to be here and to, get to talk about this. And, you and I have talked about this topic before, and it's so important. So yeah, it's good that we're getting together and we're gonna get out the word.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very, as I've expressed to you before, the topic is very near and dear to my heart is anxiety. And that's pretty much what we're, going to be talking about today. So, I mean, as a counselor, I'm always curious about like someone's process of getting to know what someone's triggers and like troubles are. So, do you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, during the initial session, I'll gather someone's background information and really work on just listening to what they're telling me. So I'm listening and I'm asking them questions, and they're based off of, identifying what someone's triggers are, like you said, what their troubles are, what they're going through. Sometimes people have good insight, so they already kind of know what they're experiencing, which is helpful. But other times people aren't really sure, which that's okay too. So I look for the patterns, the behaviors, the emotions that come up that they're telling me. And then I'm able to help them identify the different pieces and how everything fits together.
Hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. I think that was the biggest thing that really helped me in like my journey of like understanding anxiety and all that kind of thing was just having someone listen and hear what I'm actually saying, stop me in the middle of it and say, "Did you hear what you just said?"
Mhm.
Right? A lot of awareness that comes into these sessions, which is really powerful. A lot of people don't really understand. That's such a powerful thing to just take note of is what you're saying and what you're doing. Body language as well as that stuff that you all kind of look for as well.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Body language. And, people, since I'm telemental health, I'm talking to people through a screen. And I think a lot of times, I'm just mentioning this real quick, but like a concern is that the body language, I won't be able to pick up on it through a screen. But that's
Sure.
totally not true. Like I can still get a lot of information without just seeing like from your waist up.
Yeah, I'm like over here trying to like, am I nervous? Am I showcasing like anxiety right now? Because sometimes
Yeah.
like these recorded calls can be a little bit more like, okay, the pressure's on. Like, don't stumble your words, don't mess up. But that's why
Mhm.
I love having these like really laid back conversations and just be real. Um, so that's funny that you brought that up. It's telehealth. Like that's it was such a new thing for me to switch over to telehealth visits because I loved the in-person part of it even if
Mhm.
it made me uncomfortable. My first handful of sessions with my therapist, I was actually so uncomfortable that I would stand in the actual like office room with the therapist and stand for the hour that I was with them,
Mhm.
just because I'm not good at like sitting still, I guess. When I was more anxious, but that's body language that I had to really take note on as well. Um, so Shannon, what is your like your own experience with anxiety? Did you have to go through? If you're comfortable sharing this information, are you cool with that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So what was your own, if any, personal like experiences with anxiety? Did you have any like physical symptoms or anything like that? What was it like?
Yeah, okay. So this is kind of like my story and what happened because it started a while ago, like years ago when I was 18. And it kind of due to like things I was going through, it got worse and worse. And now it's much better. So this is my little story about it. My experience with anxiety, it's constant work. I noticed feeling frequently worried around the age of 18. I mainly worried about like my family's health, family, just like how can I help my family? How can I take care of them? Like, do I need to take care of them? So I was having a lot of worries like that. I spent a lot of time just controlling situations that were literally out of my control. And I focused a lot on my problems and trying to fix them. Some of my problems were small, some were distorted thoughts, and I would blow them out of proportion. That's all, caused by the anxiety. Let's see. So, what you focus on is what multiplies. And you're going to see like kind of this theme. So like over my 20s, the anxiety gradually increased. So I became married and I worked in the mental health field. Sometimes my behavior is to control, and sometimes I avoid because I'm overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
And where it got really bad, I was working at an agency as a counselor, and it wasn't my fault that it occurred. It was definitely the agency I was working for. And unfortunately, we see this like in the mental health field. We work at agencies and we're pushed well beyond our limits, and we're kind of like gaslighted about it, that it's our fault. I'm not saying all agencies are like this, but the one I was at was definitely like this.
Mm-hmm.
So I worked 8-hour shifts without breaks. I couldn't use the restroom unless I asked somebody that they could help watch my clients for me. I was always expected to work. Some days I volunteered to work 16 hours.
Wow.
Yeah. And, I have so many stories about this, but like the main parts. So I wore so many hats at work, and this was so unhealthy. I was a counselor, a nurse, a dietitian, a cook, and a facility cleaner at this job. And
Wow,
it was,
that's a lot.
yeah, it was not good. It was really ridiculous. And I was grossly underpaid for having a master's degree and for being a national certified counselor.
Yeah, it sure sounds like it. My gosh, that's a lot.
Yeah, it was way too much, more than I could handle. I tried to advocate for myself, advocate for coworkers, other counselors who came and went because of, high turnover. My voice was unheard, and my work with my clients was unvalued by the overhead of the company. So you can see where this went. I was there, I was earning my professional license, and as soon as I got it, I got out of there. So yeah, at a price, my mental health was shot. In my 30s, I started my own private practice. I was like, this is what I'm going to do for myself and what I'm going to do, to help my clients. And, because you own your own business, you can you run it how you best see fit and what works for you.
Right.
So that really helped out my mental health a lot, having that flexible schedule and things like that. And I had also developed insomnia from working at the agency. So I had to work on correcting that. And that took 6 months. And at times, like, I still struggle with insomnia because of that job.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so all of this, that's how my nervous system reacts to a particular situation. And it's just trying to keep me safe.
Mm-hmm.
I've identified my own themes and triggers, which are too personal to share, but like physical symptoms that I've experienced over the years, they range from mild to severe. Severe was when I was like working in the agency. I would have moments where I felt like I'd pass out or I was crying. And then, more mild symptoms are just like tenseness in upper body. So just, pretty tense, sometimes sweating.
Yeah. Was that
Yeah.
like more tension like in the chest area in particular?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like it happens from, yeah, chest, shoulders, and in my jaw.
Okay. Yeah, because
Yeah.
when I was, experiencing a lot of more anxiety, it was always in like my chest area, my throat, yeah, where I feel like I was gonna pass out as well. You get really hot, you start kind of spinning a little bit, and
Mhm.
maybe a little bit of nausea. Like this, there's so many like physical symptoms that most people don't understand when it comes to anxiety. And I think that's the problem, is that when it's happening, they don't understand that it's anxiety a lot of the time. So if you're anxious prone and a hypochondriac, then that's a hard combination to break.
Yeah.
Sounds like you've experienced quite a few different physical symptoms as well, which is
Mhm.
hard. It's hard to kind of push through. So what happened after that?
Yeah. So, I was, just becoming a professional counselor, like going out on my own, it has helped so much, which is why I kind of like specialize in it. So presently, my symptoms, they're very mild. I still have distorted thoughts, worries, fears, issues regulating my body temperature, and muscle tightness. But otherwise, it seems normal because
Sorry about that. I don't know what happened.
yeah, I don't know, you froze.
Looks like Zoom decided to crash on me. Okay, so we'll take it back to where you said obviously it's easier or something like that.
Okay. Yeah, so it's, having my own business, it's easier right now to take care of myself, to do what I need to do. Presently, my symptoms, they're very mild. I still experience distorted thoughts, worries, fears, issues with regulating body temperature and muscle tenseness. But it's kind of like normal. That's like normal anxiety. Everybody, experiences anxiety. So it's not like that super high, like anxiety.
That's good. We were able to kind of work through the things that were causing you. It sounds like a lot of stress induced anxiety as well, right? It just kind of stuck with you. Um, did you experience like panic attacks as well?
Very rare. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. That
Yeah.
was when I was working at the agency. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's good. Or that's good because I was experiencing a lot of panic attacks throughout like the time I was really, really suffering with anxiety. So all of these little physical symptoms that you're saying really add up to this big explosion in your mind, and you start blowing things up easily, um, which I'm glad that you're able to work through that, and will continue to work through that, obviously, because you have the tools, right? So when it comes to like your clients and anxiety, how do you specifically help them through that? Do you have like a certain process you like to go through, or is it more like a case by case kind of basis?
Yeah. I provide people with knowledge about how our minds work, particularly anxiety and how it shows up in our bodies. And once we know this, then we can start working on awareness, which you've brought up. Our experience and understanding of what's going on is super crucial. And so, depending on the person that I'm working with and their situation, I choose a therapeutic approach to teach them. And so, some of the strategies that they need to learn they need to learn them, they need to be able to apply them in order to best help themselves, outside of therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I teach people dialectical behavior therapy. cognitive behavioral therapy, acceptance, commitment therapy, solution focused. I'll take a solution focused approach sometimes, and I'll take a person centered approach. And that's, I found all of those things really helpful, and people have as well. I also let people know that therapy is deep and it's hard work. I think people come into sessions thinking like this is going to be kind of easy or something like that, but it's actually a lot more work than people realize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is, it's funny because I avoided therapy for a very long time and thought I could beat it on my own and I would outgrow the phase that I was in, and it's just a phase. And I was doing all the wrong things, stacking up, negative experiences with negative experiences, proving that anxiety is real and does indeed have control over my life. I taught myself over the course of like 10 years that was something that was true. So having to like go back in and say, okay, I surrender to therapy and start unwinding that big old tangle of thoughts and experiences was extremely difficult, and one of the things that I really admired about my therapist was that she gave me a lot of like homework assignments. Like, hey, I need you to go do this. It's going to be difficult, but I know you can do it. Okay. Let's talk about what's going to happen if you do. And we started exploring the negatives and the positives and all that kind of stuff. And then it gave me a different type of kind of view on it, so sometimes that's what it takes is to show people again what they're saying, what they're doing, and how they're feeling about it. So I love the cognitive behavioral therapy behind that. But you mentioned other thing what was it, dialectical?
Oh yeah, dialectical behavior therapy.
Yeah, can you explain a little bit about that? That's interesting. I've never gone through that myself, but I'm aware of anyway.
Yeah. So that approach, that strategy, it works for anxiety. It's also pretty closely related to CBT. I've used it to help people who have eating disorders and trauma. So you're kind of looking, what it is you're practicing flexible thinking, and it really helps with problem solving. So flexible thinking, I want you to like think about it as the mind as a muscle, and you're learning to direct that mind muscle, and you're flexing it so it becomes stronger the more times that you practice flexible thinking.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So like you would look at, say, a problem that you have, and then you would look at the opposite of your problem. And, also looking at distorted thoughts, kind of like cognitive reframing, and, find the middle ground of that thought so that it's more flexible. It's not as rigid. And, a lot of times those are, distorted thoughts, beliefs, labels, things that we put on ourselves that aren't helpful.
Yeah, it's like a one-track mind way of thinking, right? There's a lot of, that's exactly what anxiety did to me, was one-track way of thinking. It's the experiences were exactly what they were the last time I experienced it, and that's it. So you're gonna have a bad time if you try to do this again. So that makes a lot of sense. I was just really curious. I've never come across that before. So thank you for explaining that for me. So I know the last time we spoke, we did talk about how anxiety is not really understood by most, and whether it's the person that's experiencing it or the person that's never experienced it. With the anxieties, I've come across a lot of people that think it's big, it's fake, it's not real. But what do you think is the biggest like misconception when it comes to anxiety?
Yeah, I think it's definitely that people who either have the anxiety or are looking at somebody who's dealing with it, they're perceived as weak. I think that that's the biggest misconception, and it's far from the truth. People with anxiety are battling it, they're facing it. In order to manage it, then we must acknowledge and confront it. We must allow ourselves to get comfortable with being uncomfortable and practice allowing, yourself to adjust to the worries, fears, discomforts. And it comes with time, so you have to be patient. But people with anxiety are pretty brave.
Right. I think that's very accurate in a lot of ways. I know, again, I know I'm speaking from a lot of personal experiences here, but this is, again, something that was such a big part of my life, and it was something that I did feel, weak or embarrassed by, and like incapable, a lot of times in my life too, because it brought a lot of like, you can't do this. Remember, you have anxiety. Don't even try. Thoughts in my life so much. So there was a lot of moments where I felt, incapable and weak. And it was embarrassing to have to admit, hey, I can't do this thing, so much as take a road trip with friends. Like that was like, no way, don't do that, because you're going to freak out about an hour into the drive and you're going to wish that you stayed home. So what do you think happened every single time I went on the road trip? The same thing, right? But, to argue the opposite of that, looking back, it was almost an empowering, thing, because you have something that a lot of people don't have, in my opinion, right? And that's awareness. I feel that people that are like anxious prone, anxiety prone, I feel like those are the most aware people, because they're aware of their surroundings so much to the point where it causes anxiety. That's probably just one part of it, I'm sure. But just looking back, I really feel like that was something that made me a better person. I'm thankful for those experiences now, even if looking back, it was rough and it took a long time, to break out of that. But I feel a lot stronger, for that now, which I'm sure you can say the same, about your own experiences. So I'm always curious to actually ask like professionals this, right? Because I'm not by any means a professional. I am a patient, right? So to your knowledge, what would you say is actually going on when someone encounters anxiety, like in the brain and all that?
Yeah, everybody has anxiety. It's a built-in survival response. Fight, flight, freeze responses to situations is something that we're all at least a little bit familiar with. And that helps, us to know a little bit of something about anxiety. From the neuroscience perspective, we gather environmental information through our physical senses, usually our eyes, neurons and signals. They travel, the different pathways through our brains, parts of our brains like the cortex and the amygdala. And that's where the anxiety comes from. It interprets the signals. And so that if there's a threat, then it's detected and it's signaled. And then we respond. And a lot of times, our response can just be automatic. So think about it like if you're driving your vehicle down the road and you see an accident up ahead, you need to know that like your brain's going to see that and you're going to just automatically punch on your brakes.
Right.
It avoids the situation.
It's protecting you. You're right. It's a built-in survival kind of mechanism that we have that, is misunderstood again in a lot of ways. It's like we don't look at it that way. We look at it as a problem. But you know who Mel Robbins is, I'm assuming, right? She's big on the anxiety world, and she's like, sometimes that is something that you need to give your mind a reason to why you're anxious, because your mind doesn't know. It doesn't have a reason. That's where the panic attacks really come from, and that alone, I wish I knew that a handful of years ago. I would have been able to just have those tools already without having to go through all the hard experiences. So understanding, I think, where it comes from, why it's happening, and what it actually is really, really important. Did you have anything else? I didn't mean to interrupt you. Do you have anything else you wanted to add to that?
That's a perfect little like segue. So like this is the basic information, Like
Hmm.
it's so much more complex than that. I mean, we're talking about our brains.
Right.
So, luckily we don't need to fully understand the neuroscience in order to help ourselves. People are usually concerned that something is wrong with them. They think that they're defective in some way. In reality, the situation's usually that they're not defective. They just need support. They just need support dealing with what they're going through. And they need to know that the emotions that they're experiencing are natural, that their thoughts are going to come and they're going to go, and their thoughts are just thoughts, they're not facts. And
Right.
we need to basically just get curious about what's going on and start working towards our goals.
Yeah.
And I have a book recommendation as well, so I'll share that
Awesome.
with you.
Yeah.
I have it right here. So rewire your
Rewire your.
anxious brain.
Oh,
Yep.
Catherine Pittman. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I was listening to, I think, a podcast that she was a guest on.
Yeah,
So very smart woman.
she
Um,
is.
have you read through this entire book already?
So my certification course is actually based off of this book.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So
Okay.
Catherine taught the course. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It
That's
was
so
so
cool.
cool.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
have that book in my cart actually. I just haven't made the jump to order it just yet. There's also like 90 other books in there. So I have to read the ones I have on hand, which is about three or four. But
Yeah.
I love book recommendations. So I'm glad that that's a good one.
Yeah.
So I'll leave a link in the description of this as well, so you guys can purchase that.
Mhm.
That's awesome. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah. The
very
so the
cool.
really cool thing about this book is that it's not like it's easy to read for a neuroscience book. You
Okay.
know,
Yep.
there's definitely like there's little charts and helpful things. Like right there is a chart for anxiety. So it's like
Awesome.
there's helpful things in here. Yeah, it's pretty easy to understand and apply.
Hmm. That's so cool. Yeah, that's just dumbing it down. I know the neuroscience conversations can be, like you said, it's the brain. It can be really advanced, really confusing, like all those medical terminologies and scientific terminologies. It's like, well, explain that to me in like layman's terms. Like, how do you dumb it down into a language we can all understand? I think that's
Mhm.
really, really awesome. It sounds like that's exactly what she did. Um, so I'm looking forward to reading that for sure. So thank you for recommending that.
Yeah.
Um, just to kind of switch gears just a tiny bit, right? I just want to kind of briefly touch on the business side of things for you. So you work for yourself, like you said, you started your own business. You help others through some really difficult times with anxiety, and all of that, right? So how did you actually build up the confidence with that to be able to just go for it, put yourself out there, and have the confidence to work, you know, with people and their issues?
It's easier because I'm passionate about helping people. And
Yeah.
I find the mental behavioral health really fascinating. So like for me, I get excited about that kind of stuff. Um, but it's a ton of education and experience working with people.
Yeah.
That's really the background of where my confidence comes from. It's practice, practice, practice. And I do my best to make sure that I don't overload myself with work. I try to keep a smaller caseload. I practice a lot of awareness of how I'm feeling and making sure that I'm doing my self care so that I can provide that highest level of care to my clients. Um, but we're all human. I'm human, so I'm not always 100% confident. Whenever I'm going through something like that, I make sure that I revisit my counseling materials, my education. Um, I consult with a professional. I do basically whatever I need to do to feel confident again. And another thing people usually ask about is imposter syndrome. And yeah, that's also
Yeah.
something that comes up every once in a while, but not very frequent.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you're constantly putting yourself in front of new new information, new data, new training, right? You're educating yourself and essentially practicing what you preach, which is, I think, really important. You know, one of the things I mentioned in an earlier video, like just like 2 years ago that I did, which was helping people find a therapist for themselves, right? It's the exact process that I took, right? I'll go ahead and link that above as well. But there was a question that I like to ask that I feel most people don't ask their potential therapist, and that's, you know, have you ever been a patient of a therapist before? You know, have you been in the seat that you are encouraging me to join, right? I think that's really important too, is to know that I can relate to you. I've gone through it, you know, and sharing, like, this is kind of I would say it's up to a personal preference between the client or patient and the therapist, but there's the willingness to share your own experiences in the room as well. To say, hey, I've been there. You know, this is what I'm hearing, and this is what I had to go through. I think that's really helpful, you know, especially because you're putting yourself in front of, you know, these books and this other education that you're doing. You're checking in with yourself. It's really powerful stuff that you can really translate into the client sessions. So I love that you practice what you preach. I have to give you credit to that.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I do try to, have that chat with my clients if I feel it's appropriate, and be like, I struggle with anxiety. I can relate to exactly what you're saying right now. That's really
Yeah.
helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, to know that they're not alone. You know, there for a long time. I think I always knew that it was anxiety, but I didn't exactly think that a lot of people had it that bad. You know, so when I started to like research it and look it up and, you know, be a lot more vocal about it, I came across a lot more people that were like, oh yeah, like I used to have anxiety. I had no idea what it was. I just thought there was something wrong with me. It wasn't until I started talking about it to where it opened my eyes and actually gave it a name. You know, it's like identifying what it is. Oh, that's exactly what I have. So I think that's a really awesome thing to know that this is, I mean, not a good thing that it's so common, but it's a good thing that we're talking about it and can actually identify it, understand it, and work through it, which is the whole reason that you and I are chatting about this exact topic. 'Cause it can be a scary thing and can be a lonely thing for sure. So I really appreciate you letting me pick your brain on that, Shannon. Do you have any like final thoughts on the topic before we kind of get into where we can learn more about you?
Yeah, let me just add that I think we, like, whenever we're talking about anxiety, usually, no, I guess you could be either talking to yourself or to someone else, but we use the word like my anxiety, or,
Right.
we kind of like you said, we need to put a different label on it. It's not my
Right.
anxiety. It's like I'm struggling with anxiety, or I'm dealing with anxiety right now. It's not who
Like,
you are as a
right.
person.
It's like a companion that we're almost saying, which is what I say all the time. So again, this is what I love talking to a therapist. I can point out what I'm saying. So, you
Yeah.
know, it's really powerful. I think it's not identify it as your little companion that's there with you forever. It's
Mhm.
something that you're able to leave behind you if you choose to. You work through it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Look through
exactly.
it in the rear view mirror, right? So I love it. I love it. Awesome, Shannon. It's been a pleasure to speak with you today. Thank you so much again for letting me pick your brain. Where can we find more information on you or to get in touch with you?
Yeah. So to follow, my counseling materials, go to finishstrongercounseling.com. And I have a blog, so you can subscribe to the blog. I also post pretty regularly on the Facebook page or my Instagram account. Also, Finish Stronger Counseling.
Okay.
For counseling is for people in Pennsylvania, since that's where I'm licensed at. But for endurance, runner, athlete, mindset coaching, that's people in the United States, and that's finishstrongermindsetcoaching.com. I have a blog for that as well. I do post like personal sort of blogs on there as well. So just a heads up, like that's not all just mindset material. It's like Ultramarathon, like my race reports and stuff go up on there as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You have plenty of value to bring, so be sure to check out her websites. I'll leave a link on this video and also in the description so you guys can check her out. I'm looking forward to speaking with you again, Shannon. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, we'll talk soon, okay?
Okay, take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.